Hello everyone, welcome back. I missed you guys. Did you miss me last week? I hope you did. Last week I got pretty busy finishing an animation. I just set myself to finish that deadline. So yeah, I just had a deadline that I put on myself to finish. All my art and animations are on my Instagram. I always leave my socials below on the description of the video, but just to make it quicker, this is my profile. Yeah, go check it out, leave a comment, give a like, give a follow. So today we're talking about the books that I read in February. Are you guys excited? I won't go into spoilers or what I think would be major spoilers, but I'll give an overview and some maybe a bit of spoilers, but just enough to maybe get you interested in the book, because sometimes we don't really fancy the synopsis of a book, but then someone tells you a spoiler and the spoiler hits you in a different way. And that's what I'm trying to give you, just something more than just the synopsis of the book. Here I have matcha on this beautiful mug that I got on my last trip to Montreal. Montreal is such a beautiful city. I just fell in love with it. But maybe too busy, so I'm not sure it would be the perfect place for me. I'm a quiet person. Like, I can see myself living far, but at the same time I don't want to be far away. I digress. Okay, so the tea is also for me, but it's also to start the first book on my list, which is the last book I finished in this February month. Okay, I finished it yesterday. We are in March, obviously. But I only finished it yesterday because I had to do the animation work last week that was February. So I'm counting this as a February book. This is my channel, these are my rules, don't judge me. So the first book that we're talking about is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, I'm so sorry. And what a ride! This book, I don't even know how to explain, because I got lost in all the twists and turns, and I needed a compass to find myself back to reality, back to my normal life after all of this. This book I started as an audiobook. I borrowed the audiobook from the library, but I'm not sure if it was the narrator, I'm not sure if it was the voice of the narrator, because that makes a difference. I don't know what happened, but the audiobook was slow, not boring. I don't want to say it was boring. The audiobook didn't get me invested enough. It didn't hook me, and I thought this story was supposed to hook me from the beginning. So I got the ebook to have a better reading experience, if I can say that. And I'm so glad I did that. I was right about the audiobook experience not being that great for me, because the reading experience, oh my god. And this book is a clear example of one benefit of e-readers. Because if you have an e-reader and you don't know the word, you can just press it down and you'll find the translation, the dictionary, and the Wikipedia page explaining everything to you. It's a quicker access to a translator. In case you're questioning if you should get a e-reader or not, keep that in mind. The writing style of this book is something different. I don't know any other book that was written the same way to make a comparison, but in here, the writing is not direct. For example, sometimes the character is in a place talking to someone else, and we don't know where we are, what we are doing there, who are we talking to, what is happening. We don't know. It's very common on this book, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It may get people confused. It's super easy to get confused until you give time to yourself to get used to this type of writing style. But the benefit of this writing style is that you get surprised all the time. Just like you would be surprised in a television show or a movie that the character is in this unknown place and someone else, you hear a voice and they start to talk and you can't see the face of the person that is interacting with our main character. It's the same thing. It's difficult to surprise the audience in a book. This book, it surprises us all the time. And I mean all the time. The beginning, it's a bit slow because it's a heist story. So in most heist stories, even in movies, the beginning it's a little not that much because we are just learning about the characters, learning about the world, and everything is fairly solid. We have a lot of time to build the relationships and how everything falls into place. Okay, so what this story is about. We follow Arthi and Jin, and they have this tea house called Spindrift. And Spindrift is endangered to close because the building was bought, and they are forced to accept this heist job to try to save the tea house. And it's not a simple tea house. It's a tea house by day and a blood house by night, because we do have vampires in this story. Apparently vampires are coming back. I don't know where this came from. I don't know if I'm fully prepared because I was a teen back in Twilight. So I have some traumas, but we are figuring out ourselves, aren't we? So yeah, we'll try. And the vampires here are great, really. As most heist stories, we gather a team, a gang. Yeah, they go do the heist, and obviously things don't work because they usually don't work perfectly. That's the fun, right? That's the fun of the story. So about the characters, Arthi is our main character. She's this young girl that is a refugee in this kingdom country. So we have some criticism against colonialism, which we love to see. And she starts to build her life back up with Spindrift. She and her found family, found brother, Jin. Jin is the best character. Jin is my favorite character. He is charming. He is sweet. He's smart. He's intelligent. I love Jin. Yeah. While Arthi always lived in the poor side of the city, Jin actually was a rich boy. But things happened and he lost everything and was on the street. They found each other, so we have a found family and it's so cute. We have some other characters like Flick and Jin. They flirt all the time and I was living for it. Honestly, the first half of the book, I was reading it because of Jin and Flick, mostly. Okay, the plot was interesting, but Jin and Flick dynamic, it's so good and it's so fun to read. I was having a great time. Yeah, I was having a great time. This is the first book on a series, maybe a duology, I believe. I don't know, I'm not sure. I feel we'll get more of Arthi in the second book. The first book, we don't get to see much of her. She is a badass. She is the boss in Girl Boss, okay? It's not just told to us. We actually see that. But because she has so many secrets and she hides everything and she is so unapproachable, we don't approach her. We don't engage with her. Even the other side character like Mateo is one vampire. I was enjoying him more than I was enjoying Arthi. That changes in the end of the book. That's why I feel we'll get to see more of her in the second book. But for now, Arthi is almost a side character in this book. I don't know if it was planned, it was just my opinion, but she is perfect. She is perfect. I actually don't know if I would change her, honestly. She works perfect. She's Arthi. I can't explain to you. It's just like if I was trying to explain to you Jude from The Cruel Prince. Jude is Jude. Arthi is Arthi. And yeah, that's it. This was a great read. I didn't rank it in my Goodreads yet. I think I would give this 4.5 or 4.2 just because the beginning is a bit slow. Just because of that, but I loved it. I loved it. This one, I will buy a physical copy. I need a physical copy for myself. And this one will go to my I Would Marry You with Paper Ink tag. The next book is Heartless Hunter. In this book, I have mixed feelings about it, but I did enjoy it. I finished this book in 2 days. It was addicting. If you want a fast-paced book that you don't need to think too much on the plot, you can just go and enjoy the story, you might like this book. It has potential. So what's the story? The story is about this young lady, this socialite called Rune, and she's actually a witch, and she's saving other witches from the witch hunters because after the revolution, people didn't want to be under witch control anymore because witches are bad. Then they hunt the witches and they finish them. So she's saving all these poor witches. She was trying to save this one special witch, but she didn't get there in time. And the entire book, she's planning with her friends how to save this other witch, and she tried to save her by getting information from the inside and getting special access to the blood guard. How does she do that? She does that by courting a blood guard captain named Gideon. So yeah, enemies to lovers, but not. This is not enemies to lovers. This is the origin story of enemies to lovers. Hold on. So Rune and Gideon, so the love interest protagonists, they knew each other from childhood because Rune is best friend with Gideon's brother, Alex. And Alex, since the beginning, we know that Alex is in love with Rune, but he does nothing. Why? I don't know. Alex is such a catch. Rune and Gideon knew each other before, and they kind of had a crush in each other, but misunderstanding happens and they fall apart. And when they get reunited, it almost feels like insta love. Let's ignore Ace. I was not a fan of that. I know it was not insta, but kind of felt like it. We had this type of love triangle between the brothers and Rune, which was fun. It would be better if Alex was doing something else. The romance part starts pretty fast. This is the first book on a duology. The duology, that one will be enemies to lovers. I'm expecting that. I honestly am. One thing that got me off the book sometimes is that I kept forgetting why the witch Seraphine was so important. Why do we care about her? It's just because she was someone that Rune grandma knew? What is the deal? I kept forgetting about it sometimes. And something else wasn't adding up because Rune is this badass character that goes and tricks the blood guard. She avoids traps and she fights and she does the witchcraft, but she was always protected, like in a bubble rich girl. So where did she learn how to fight? Where? When? How? By who? Who helped her? Who taught her? She just learned how to fight in like 2 years. I guess. I don't know. Like, she was raised on a silver spoon and suddenly, because her grandma died, she learned how to fight. So that was something that I didn't really enjoy, but I enjoyed the rest. Sometimes we just need to like be forgiving of the books and not be that picky, you know? So Rune is the socialite and Gideon is our default hot, tall, tan character, male character. The book is basically Gideon and Rune. They chasing each other like this game of cat and mouse. Felt like Elle and Light Yagami from Death Note kind of chase, because they are interacting with each other. They are courting each other just because he is suspecting that she is the witch that is helping the other witches escape, and she wants inside intel. So they are trying to get information. That's the thing in this book that really hooks you and gives momentum to the plot, because we know things could go really bad really, really fast, and they do. I feel like the ending of these two books, they just broke me in a way. Oh god. So yeah, we have some plot twists, we have some turns. Some parts were predictable, but enjoyable anyway. So yeah, overall, I really like this book. I don't even think I have it on my Goodreads yet, but I'll put it in my I was enchanted to meet you tag. The next book is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And in this book, we have 4 short stories taking place inside this cafe. The special thing about this cafe is that you can go back in time on it. So you can visit the past. You can visit the past, but it doesn't matter what you do in the past. Your present won't change. And that's when the book really became interesting to me, because if your present won't change, you're not going back to the past just to take advantage of it or to gather information. I don't know, the lotto number to get rich. You're going because of an emotional reason. That's what we get in these 4 stories. Each story has a more emotional depth to it. Even though the concept was nice and it was an easy read, I didn't really enjoy it. I think it was very slow paced. Sometimes too descriptive. The characters were thinking about their feelings and we are reading about their thoughts, and it goes and it goes and it goes in a rabbit hole, and we're like, okay, so what are we doing? What are you going to do? Or are you just going to sit there and cry by yourself? I don't want to be mean to the characters. You feel sympathy for the characters. You care about them. Some of them. But I wasn't really caring enough. It's a nice book. It's a book that you can get 1 story per day. So a easy book to finish, but it has a potential to get boring. Overall, I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. Which tag I would put this book? Did I decide that before? Okay, so I gave this 3 stars, and it was in my I was enchanted to meet you. It makes sense. It's not good enough for paper rings. Okay, so these next 2 books, I actually talked about them in a reading vlog. So if you want to check my reactions, I'll leave it here. Where would be? Would be here. This is the first time I'm doing like pointing out. I hope I'm pointing on the right direction. Okay, let's get back to the book. This Violent Delights is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but in a 1926 Shanghai. So we have a lot of people from different countries and with different ideologies and views of the world. Really, the vibe of this book is amazing. If you picture the images in your head, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's so interesting and so rich. I listened to the audiobook, and the narrator, she could talk in different languages. It gave me such an immersive experience in this book. So what's the story of this book? We have Juliet and Roma instead of Romeo. They are from rival gangs in Shanghai. The gangs work with drugs and selling protection against, I don't know, other type of life crime, but if they are the ones that rule the crime, who are they protecting the people from? Or are they talking like, if you don't pay me, I'll just ruin your shop? Is that how it worked? I don't remember. What was the logistic? So let's go past that. In between this conflict between the gangs, we have this mysterious creature that has unleashed a plague in the city. So people start to itch themselves and to the point that they start to hurt, and they actually end up ripping up their windpipe and their neck. The desperation to get rid of something that we don't know of. We don't know what is happening and what's causing people to just rip out their own throats. And so Juliet and Roma, as the future leaders of their respective gangs, start to work together to solve this puzzle. It was interesting, but the plot was a bit confusing. I got lost on some parts. So Juliet, she's almost an Azula, but we have reason to be terrified of Azula from Avatar. We don't see much here with Juliet. We hear stories, see later that she's dangerous, but in the beginning of the book we don't see that much. Roma is sweet. Now that I think about it, we see a lot of him, but he doesn't give off a strong impression. He doesn't have that much personality apart from loving Juliet. So this book's a duology. I don't think I'll be listening to the second book. Actually, I just remembered that I was more invested and more interested in the two side characters that are Roma's friend and cousin, and not really Roma and Juliet. Yeah, I finished this book. I gave it 2 stars in my Goodreads, and this went to, long story short, was a bad time. Okay, so the next book that I read in that reading vlog is Infinite Alchemists. This one was so fun. Okay. In my notes here, I wrote, Magic School meets Full Metal Alchemist meets teen romance meets queer. Do I need to say more? So this is a story of Ash, and he's a trans person that wants to become a licensed alchemist. But in order to get the license to be allowed to do alchemy, otherwise you're doing illegal stuff, you're against the law. To get this license, he needs to be approved in this alchemy test, and the only people that gets approved is basically the ones that actually went to alchemy schools, and it's too expensive to get into an alchemy school. It's a way for the government in this country to regulate and limit the number of alchemists in the country. It limits by just allowing the access to those who can pay. Does this sound like real life problems to you? So because Ash can't pay for the education, he ends up working there. He gets approved for a job. Ash has this innate talent. He can do material, I think it's material alchemy. Alchemy is divided by tiers, so tier 1 and 2, normal people can do it as well. So number 1 is just the living force that you use to live, so basically kind of your soul. The tier 2 is what artists and musicians and people with influence use to influence others. Starting on tier 3, I don't remember what tier 3 does, but starting from there, you can do alchemy. You cannot unless you're licensed or unless you're a student and you're studying, you're practicing. And Ash has the ability to do tier 5 alchemy, that is to materialize and to give form to things that don't exist. It only exists in his head. Our boy's talented. Our boy's genius. Ash practiced alchemy in secrecy until he's caught by one of the professors, Ramsay Thorne. And Ramsay is a gender fluid person. Audiobook experience was great. The narrator was fun. It felt so much like Ash energy, and I cannot describe. Ash is quick-tempered, a more action than plan type of person. He makes mistakes. He gets into trouble and arguments and fights that could be avoided. Ramsay, on the other hand, he plans. He wants to think through, and he wants to do what needs to be done. In his professional life, he is so organized, but in the personal life, he's a mess. That's what we get from him. So he's a very serious person, very venomous tongue, which I loved. There's another character named Colin, I forgot the pronunciation. He gets later type of a conflict in romance here. We do have a bit of romance here. One aspect this book works really well is how the characters interact with each other and how they expose their feelings and their emotions. Really, I enjoyed all the dialogues that the characters just tell their hearts out, tell their life stories, and you know these life stories came from real stories, not exclusively of the author, but from someone else. They had substance. So that's what I mean by romance. If you watch my reading vlog, you see my reactions. Yeah. The magic system here, it starts in like science-based, so very like Fullmetal Alchemist. In some parts of the book, I kind of got lost in the science behind it. It felt like more magic, save on some occasions, but in most part of the book, it felt like just magic, which was okay. This is not a negative point. I really enjoyed the magic system here. I liked the ending. I enjoyed it. Very high stakes. I was genuinely worried for the characters. And I like the happy ending. There's a happy ending here before the cliffhanger because, yeah, things don't go well. Things can go well if you're going to have more story. I gave this book 3.5 stars. Keep in mind that in my Goodreads, I don't have stars. I don't put it in there. This book is not a 4 stars, but it's not a 3. Simple. 3.5. And this went to I Was Enchanted to Meet You tag. Okay, so the last book is the book that I started the month with. I started reading this one in January and I finished it in the beginning of February. And that is The Sweetest Betrayal, the last book on the Kinder Poison series. This book redeemed the entire series. While the Kinder Poison was slow and boring for me, boring enough to almost being DNF'd, and I had to switch to audiobook because I wanted to give a chance to the story. And same thing to the second book. I listened to the audiobook. This one, I didn't have the audiobook. But the second book ended in such high stakes that I just borrowed the ebook on the library, in the Libby app, and I read the entire book in 3 days on my tiny phone screen. I would never guess how much I would enjoy this third book. And all my critics on the first and second book, they were solved here. All the problems that I had, they are solved. Some character plots and character points in their personality, they got completely discarded, but that's fine because it feels better. It works better. If I was harsh on the beginning with this series, I need to be praising it even more in the third book to be fair. Do I recommend this series? I do recommend listening to the audiobooks because I didn't have a great time reading. I was about to DNF. So listen to the audiobooks, and when you feel like it, switch to the ebook. I can't tell much about the story because it's the third book, so you have spoilers. Unless you want me to do an entire The Kinder Poison series story video, let me know if that is interesting to you. I didn't see many people talking about this book. There's not much content on this series, but I don't want to do content that people won't watch. If you want a Kinder Poison series recap, let me know. Okay, so I got here the ebook of the Kinder Poison. So the entire philosophy, the motto that rules the entire series can be summed up in the first sentence of the first book. And that is, all good stories start with bad decisions. And that's the entire series. Zaru, our protagonist, she keeps doing bad decisions, but here she's make more sense. She is a bit more smart. Costa is still the most interesting character by far. I like Costa so much. What happened here? What happened here? After Costa, we have Hen. Hen is the protagonist, Ozaru's best friend, and we do see her in the first book, but we are deprived of her by the rest of the first book and basically the entire of the second book. We barely see her. We don't see her the way that we see her in the third book, and I'm so mad because Hen is an amazing character. She's chaos in a dress. She's unpredictable. She is fun. The characters that we are briefly introduced to in the first book, and we barely see them in the second book, we see them a lot in the third book. So we really do have a gang. Finally, we have adventures in the desert with ambushes and characters talking to each other. Even the jokes here, they hit different. Because like sometimes in the first book, I felt like it was built and forced, like if it was trying to mimic Avatar, The Last Airbender. Here in the third book, it works. It worked. It's fun. I laughed. The bickering between Zaru and Casta, why couldn't we have that from the beginning? Why? I want more of Zaru and Casta. But unfortunately, this is the final book. This is the third book. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. I personally am not fond of the moral of the story, that is kindness solves everything. Not really my cup of tea, but it works. It makes sense in this story. It makes sense for the protagonist. I can live past that because Casta. The enemies to lovers here was slow, very, very slow. I think we would benefit from seeing the bickering and the fighting, just a little bit of flirting, a glimpse of their feelings from the beginning. We have moments in the first book, but nothing compared to the third. And the ending, I cried. I was so shocked. It was the sweetest betrayal. It was. Maybe it's too much, maybe I'm overreacting, but that's how it made me feel. I even checked here on my Goodreads. I gave this previously 3 stars. I guess it was supposed to be under 4 but over 3, but just remembering this feeling that I wanted more of this content, I guess it's a 4-star for me. Not because it's perfect or because it's a great book that I learned so much. No, but because it was fun, because it stayed with me longer after I finished the book. That's an accomplishment. So 4 stars. I'm just updated, and this went to my I Was Enchanted to Meet You because it's not paper ring material, but it got the extra tag of because we lost track of time again. So yeah guys, these were my reads for this month of February. There were more books that I wanted to read, but some of them I just couldn't get the book on the Libby app. Other ones I just didn't have the time, which is okay. So in total, I read 6 books this month. That's a lot, and I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give me your comments if you read any one of these books. Give me recommendations for the March month, any books that you're interested in, so we can discuss them together. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye!